I saw you wrote a bit of the commentary on her speech yesterday. You were much excited about the use of colloquialism, which I think was brilliantly done. But is this a speech that will be remembered?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, first of all, thank you very much, Ernest. But yeah, to speak directly to the question, you look at a speech like this, and the function of the introductory speech, normally the function of it is to introduce the candidate to the audience, is to paint a certain or frame a certain persona or image of the candidate, the VP candidate, to the audience. Is this a speech that will be remembered? Of course. I think there are several takeaway points or quotes from the speech that people will remember. If you compare that to another vice presidential candidate somewhere else, Sarah Palin, when she was introduced, she went on there and gave a very powerful knockout speech, which propelled her presidential candidate, John McCain, to the front of the poll. So at least gave him some boost. So you look at a day like this, and you can see that she's very much aware of what the historical nature of her candidature. She says it's not just about opening the doors, but also holding those doors open to others. She talks about why we need to stop the system or the status quo as it is now, and she talks about why the time for change is now. So there are several of these quotes which are making the rounds on social media. Several of these quotes which are making the rounds on Facebook. She says no shaking and all of that. So I think in terms of the speech being its place in history, I think there's no doubt that she knocked that out of the park.
Do you think she fell for the temptation of being an impressionist because of the hype and the times in which we are and all that has been said about her? Did she fall for that, or she was just herself?
Yeah, so the pressure is always there. The pressure is always there on a day like this. And if you look at Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyemang, the thing about it is that every candidate comes with their strengths and with their weaknesses. I mean, we all do, even naturally in life. So one of the things that really goes for her is that people do not see her as part of the daily banter, somebody involved in the daily banter of politics. Although she was in the Mahama administration, she came into the administration as a political outsider, sort of. Now she's not a full outsider because she's been in there for some time, but most of her persona is seen through the lens of an academic, somebody who has achieved stuff in the professional world and came into politics to serve. So you cannot ascribe to her the same political skills, the same political experience, the same political intuition, or sagacity, or propensity, or that natural intuitive political skill that a lifelong politician has. And that cuts both positively and negatively. Characterologically, biographically, professionally, she is there. She is right there. In terms of her character, in terms of her biography, in terms of her profession, she's there. But politically, I think there's a bit of lacking over there. She has never run for political office. She does not have a political constituency. We do not know how she's going to look on the campaign stump. We do not know how she's going to connect with the grassroots. We do not know if she's going to rouse the audience, a grassroots, or how she's going to rouse the crowd and all of that. I even argue that the COVID-19 is sort of a blessing in disguise because she does better in the sort of controlled workshop, conference, kind of forum setup. She really does well in those particular settings. So there is always that question to be answered, how this is going to play out in the frenzy and in the rubble, in the frenzy of a typical campaign rally. And so there was always that thing that people were looking out for. If you ask me about her ability to impress, people were looking out for that. Her oratory, her natural connection to the voters, the charisma. What is that there? So there was always that temptation. There was always that particular factor that people were looking out for yesterday, because we already know about her professional experience, and I mean, very, very impressive.
Did you find that? Did you find that the charisma you're talking about? Because some people have said that she's not really a speech person, and that perhaps she would have done better doing an extempore with a few notes. Because there are some videos of her online, and you watch her speak very brilliantly. Some have said that perhaps the speech and perhaps the use of a teleprompter did not bring out that person in her. Would you agree?
Yeah, so I was just coming to that. So people really were looking out for that. And what I would say is that because there is the principles of the VP, one of the things that you look at, the rules of the VP theoretically, is that he or she needs to be out there to support the president in terms of being a fierce, vociferous defender of the president, what they like to call an attack dog. But I normally don't like to use that term here because people think it's about insulting people. But when you say attack dog, it's not necessarily insulting people or using bad. It just means that you want to go out there and be that advocate for the president in a very fierce and passionate manner. Now, that is one thing that I'm sure a lot of people will be looking at. For your question, did she do that? I think she resisted that temptation to be a partisan, to score political points. She refused that temptation to be somebody that she was not. She is not a Jerry Rawlings. I mean, neither is she your out and out charismatic candidate. But there's something called a quiet charisma. And I think former President John Mahama had that. John Kufuor had that. And so people called him the gentle giant. I think she has her own gentle charisma. And for me as a speaker, I was looking out for that. Was she comfortable in her skin? Was she carving out her own rhetorical or communication skill or persona? I think she won on that score because she refused that temptation. She came out as a teacher. She was very explanatory. She was very expository. She was very conversational. She was not your fierce, fiery, charismatic political communicator. But she played to her strength, which was a lecture format. She's explaining. She's conversing with you. And once you do that, people begin to also feel comfortable with you because you, the candidate, you are comfortable in your own skin. So you see that as the speech wore on, she grew in stature with the speech. And I think that is a winner for her because immediately she plays on her own turf rather than on the normal partisan political turf. And so as far as that is concerned, I think she won over there and she endeared herself to people. And she has definitely succeeded in carving out her own track for herself.
Let me go on to the phone lines quickly and get this from Dr. Kobe Mensah. Let us shift slightly to look at the chemistry between John Mahama and Professor Nana Opoku-Agyemang. Did you find that yesterday, especially when he had to introduce Professor Opoku-Agyemang? In his speech, he said something quite interesting, that working with Jane Nana Opoku-Agyemang, I have no doubt that God will be kind to us come December 7. Now, is that for you, you know, will that sort of epitomize the sort of chemistry and confidence that John Mahama has in Professor Opoku-Agyemang? Well, we seem to have lost Dr. Kobe Mensah on the line. Let me ask you, Dr. Sikanku, on the chemistry, the issue of the chemistry between the two, what will be your commentary on that?
Oh, for that, I actually think that is one of the areas that is 400%, because you see, there are certain principles when it comes to the VP. One of them is that they have to complement you. The other one is that it has to be a good chemistry. The third one is that they have to make up for your weaknesses. The fourth one is that people choose some of them in order to address a certain demographic gap. So whether ethnic, tribal, religious, gender, or age demographic. If you have an old, very old candidate, you would like to choose a younger person. If you have a male candidate, you would like to choose a female candidate. If you have somebody from the south or from the north, they would like to choose somebody from the south and all of that. So chemistry is one of the things to look out for. In fact, one of the reasons why Barack Obama never chose Hillary Clinton was because he felt that they didn't have total chemistry and that Hillary would challenge her sometimes. And she didn't want two presidents in the White House at the same time. Somebody who come and challenge you and want to be president. And we know we have our own history with that in Ghana.
Yeah, and as we wrap up on this, Doc, on a scale of 1 to 10, what will be the ratings of her presentation yesterday?
Oh, Ernest, you will not even let me finish my point. You see, and you want me to also rate it as well. But I think they have great chemistry. I think they have great chemistry, and that was probably one of the things that John Mahama looked out for. On a scale of 1 to 10, or if I was supposed to grade this, I think it's up there. It's A minus A. I think it's up there as one of those great speeches, and we'll only wait to see how that pans out later.
Thank you very much. That's Dr. H.A. Sikanku. He is the head of the Center for Public Discourse Analysis and also a political communication analyst, joining us for some analysis on the event we had yesterday.